welcome to Wales. Now, there aren't many things in motorcycling that cause as much diversity, opinion, hate almost, as electric motorcycles. But there's one thing that's pretty close, and that is bikes made in China.
It's been 6 years since KTM launched the 790 Duke, also known as the Scalpel. Since then, the 890 Duke has come along and severely raised the bar, but in that time, KTM has acquired the Chinese brand CF Moto, and now the Austrian brand is resurrecting the original 790 Duke, along with its rugged brother from the same mother, the 790 Adventure, albeit the pair are now assembled in China at the CF Moto factory. Comprende? We went to Welsh Wales to find out if there are Chinese takeaway or bargain naked middleweights.
The thing I love about this bike, except for the price, is £6,999. £6,999. That's a lot of bike for the money. You know, it's been a good few years since I've ridden this bike, and I've almost forgotten just how good it is. You know, newer is better, fresher is better, more technology. Yes, the 890 is a better bike almost in every way, but you know, similar to the Street Triple, there's nothing wrong with the older model. And as I said, apart from the price, the biggest thing that I love about this bike is the agility of it. It's not called the Scalpel for nothing, mate. You know what I mean? It feels like, genuinely, it feels like you've got the front wheel here, the front wheel's there, and you're holding it via the axle with these handlebars. It's that direct and that agile and that sharp. It just brings masses of confidence. The 890, I think, as good as it is, this is a bit more motard, a bit more I think less serious. It's not as serious as the 890, so there's something very raw and I don't know, good. The KTM reckons that there is nothing different about this bike, obviously apart from the fact it's made in China. And there's obviously one thing, it's 95 horsepower instead of 105 like the original 790 was. I think that this is slightly more refined. As I was saying, I think this is slightly more refined. I don't know, there's something about the throttle, the fueling. I think it's just been modernised to go along with the times, to sort of close the gap and bring a little bit more. I mean, whether that was done intentionally or not, I don't know, but we've got 3 bikes here, and they're all different. One's got well, this bike has got WP suspension. It's 1444, I think, 1,444 quid, which gets you pro components, which, you know, that's very decent. As I said, yeah, so there's 3 bikes, they all feel very similar for obvious reasons, but the fueling, like I said, the fueling, the throttle is just a little bit nicer, more forgiving. The initial tap, even in the sportiest modes, is really quite nice. So yeah, KTM reckons there's nothing different. I'm not so convinced. Also, the grips and the levers are different. I'm telling you that now. The grips are a bit beefier, the levers are different, slightly different design. But other than that, this is a very, very, very cheap 790 Duke. And I think, like most people, my initial perception of the WP stuff was, well, it's going to make it stiffer, it's going to make it sportier, it's going to make it, just give it that sort of extra edge. But in fact, it doesn't feel as harsh. There's more progression through the stroke. It's more, definitely the bump management is way better, and it's just, yeah, just plusher throughout the whole stroke. I'm not saying that the stock stuff is harsh, but definitely you feel a jolt, and the damping just isn't quite there. I mean, there's, again, that's nothing different from the old bike or from the original 790. So for £1,444, look, I don't think there's going to be many takers. However, when do you price that against the 890 Duke, for example, you're saving, you know, 2 or 3 grand straight away. So yeah, it's nice to know it's there. I'm just not sure what the uptake would be. Oh, beautiful. I mean, this kind of thing just the 790 absolutely laps it up. Oh yeah. I think my dad was here actually last week. There's only a few of us here today, a chosen selection. Yeah, I believe my dad was here last week with a few others as well, so I think you might be getting a version of my dad's story as well. Yeah. What a beautiful part of the world. I wonder how much a 790 Duke would cost if it was made in Wales. There aren't many bikes that you can sort of get away with, sorry, I'll rephrase that. There aren't many sports bikes that you can get away with riding on these. And sort of, you know, middleweight and naked bikes are... oh, sorry. Yeah, there aren't many sort of sporty numbers you can get away with riding roads like this, and you know, middleweight nakeds are perfect for it. Something that's agile enough to cope with the sharp sort of unexpected turns, but something that's sort of supple enough, you know, easy, not too harsh, but just that ability to just do what you want with this front wheel makes life exciting. And when you back to back it with competitors, I mean, you know, the Hornet and the GSX-8S from Suzuki, they're two bikes this year that have come out and offered something serious bang for buck. And you know, you can't deny they've got great kit, great technology, and they look decent. I haven't spent a lot of time on either, which is, you know, I'm not going to give a review right now, but what I will say is the KTM, like most of KTM, most of the other range and its rivals, the 790 is far more fun, way more hooly. It's a bloody hooly, you know. The launch of this bike was 5 years ago, or maybe it's a bit longer, 6 years ago. Anyway, the point is, you know, look, yes, to look at, it looks a bit dated now, even though the 890 styling is not drastically different. But the point is, this bike doesn't feel like a 6-7 year old bike. You know, it still feels sharp, still feels exciting, it's got the right tech on it. I mean, this bike has got the track pack and Supermoto ABS and all that blah blah blah. But yeah, the point is, it doesn't feel dated, it doesn't feel like a 6-7 year old bike. He didn't give a fuck, does he? He did not give a fuck. It doesn't matter where the bike's from, the officer is not going to give a damn where the bike's made when you get done for pulling massive bloody wheelies all day, especially on roads like this. Whoa! Woohoo! Bit keen there, Nige. Yeah, I mean, now I'm on the stock bike with stock suspension, and it is the jump is more noticeable getting back on the stocker than it is riding the WP Pro components. Definitely got, it's a bit more of a wriggle. Doesn't like the bumps as much.
Bereft of 10 Austrian ponies, I never really wanted more power despite nailing the noise tube on these Welsh open roads. The motor still packs oodles of punch and excitement, and the chassis matches the Twin Pot's eager manners to ensure the 790 is a playful puppy in any environment. As I mentioned, it doesn't feel dated, and dynamically there's very little to moan about. I had, however, forgotten how racy the seat was, and my arse was in tatters after a few hours in the saddle. That said, I don't think comfort and touring prowess were priority when KTM developed the Scalpel. At $6,999, this is a proper bargain bike without the bargain buggery.
Well, morning from the Welsh countryside. Rather splendiferous view. We stayed in the little chalet last night. Nice little romantic. This is where the action happens, or happened. And this morning, today, we're on this little beauty. Doesn't she look good in white? The 790 Adventure. So we're going to go adventuring today. We're really going to adventure the shit out of it. And yeah. Quick adventure update. I'd say we are 6 out of 10 adventuring. And I haven't cleaned my visor. Brilliant. Oh, what a way to wake up. What a view to wake up to. You lucky sheep. So the plan is we are going to Sweet Lamb Adventure Centre. Obviously we're on some KTM, so why not? Yeah, so the 790 Adventure is 9,999, all the nines. And this is sort of, again, it's on par with the competition. Your Transalps, your V-Stroms, sort of lighter weight middleweights. Obviously, being a KTM, you do have the optional extras that some of the bikes, some of its rivals do come with. You get to pay extra for. So I need to sort the prices out. I can't remember exactly what it is. There's sort of a few hundred quid sort of scattered about the place, like, you know, rally control, etc, etc, tech pack, quick shifters, cruise control, and so on. I had a really interesting conversation with Zach and Spurge from Revzilla. We did a podcast. Oh, that's where we had dinner last night. Highly recommended. Lovely little place. Yeah, did a podcast with Zach and Spurge from Revzilla, and we discussed, you know, sort of bike journalism and, you know, how it's evolved and blah 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 blah. And it was quite interesting because me and Zach both our sort of reviewing techniques are based on dynamic reviews and sensations. You know, we get a lot of shit for going, oh, you know, reliability this and longevity that, and well, you know, we don't get to ride these bikes for long enough, or, you know, have them for long enough to form an opinion on living with, you know, genuinely living with a bike. So and we don't hide that, but all our reviews are dynamic sensations and feelings and rider feelings and you know, everything that goes, performance, etc, handling. So yeah, I'm just mentioning it, just putting it out there. It's funny, jumping from the Duke and onto this thing, you got loads of weight transfer, and the throttle I don't think is nice and sort of finished. You know, the feeling isn't as finished, I don't think, and that's because I think the whole package, you know, you got this weight, you got plenty of weight transfer, so, you know, it almost exaggerates the throttle action and what's the word, throttle his neck. Like, fucking hell, what the fuck? Throttle connection. And welcome to Sweet Lamb. If you've never been here, you need to bloody come here. What a toy. What a playground. So this is where we really start adventuring. It's where we stand up and really start to adventure. Oh, update, we're adventure 10 out of 10 now, and it's raining. Yeah, this is you know, if you're just riding on road, you don't really need the rally pack, I'd say, but this is where I'd say you definitely need it. Yeah, keep getting confused. Is it second gear or fourth gear? But obviously that little 4 in the middle, that's the slip, and you can adjust that with the buttons on the switch gear. Oh, endless fun. Hey. Whoa, buddy! Oh, a bit of a tank slapper, Nige. I mean, just what a playground this is. This is insane. Bum whip. Bum whip. The thought of it, actually, things like that, is scarier than the actual execution.
I've never been able to afford a 25 grand adventure bike, and even if I could, the thought of taking it off-road and scuffing it to buggery by simply riding it severely haunts me. And then there's the added risk of chucking it at the scenery with a whiff of over-exuberance. A sub 10k middleweight adventure bike, however, is far more palatable, especially one with genuine dirt DNA. While the 790 Adventure is a decent road bike, you always get the feeling it's directing you to the dirt. It's a little bit more agricultural than the Duke for obvious reasons, and its performance limitations on the tarmac are all too evident, like any middleweight adventure bike, especially with sort of off-road biased tyres. But if you're in the market for a do-it-all utilitarian Katarina Johnson Thompson of the motorcycling world, you best give the KTM a test ride. Funnily enough, do you know what? It felt exactly like a 790 Duke and a 790 Adventure. They did feel exactly the same. The only differences were they had some like different grips. You know, like a sort of, you know, when you put Oxford heated grips on a bike, and they have that, it's like grabbing two big wangs.
Fatters.
Yeah.
I prefer fat grips.
I do. There's definitely an element of that.
More of a Saturday night feel.
Depends how many beers you've had.
Right, okay.
Yeah. But yeah, other than that, they worked in the rain.
They worked in the rain?
Worked in the rain.
Whoa, shut up.
I know, it's crazy. So it's almost like, of this bike, believe it or not, you know, we went to Svartcross 6 years ago.
That's the same bike?
It's the same bike.
Wow. So what we're saying is then, because we're on 890 now, aren't we?
We are.
But the 790 is the Chinese 890. Or is the 890 going to be made in China as well?
Oh, no. So and this is something I didn't mention. The only bikes made in China, and this includes the 890, are the 790s. So
okay, so they've basically taken the old format,
yes,
and just gone, there you go, let's just build that for a cheap entry level motorcycle. But the 890 and 890 range, it's still going to be made in Austria, and sold for 4 or 5 grand more.
Well, yeah. This is exactly why they've done it.
Okay, gotcha.
You know, this is a bike that's now, and I know you know this, but it's £6,999.
Wow.
Basically, what's happened is that they've taken this model, this platform, and went, right, well, we can make it cheaper in China, so let's go make it cheaper in China. And
but they'd stopped making it anyway, right?
They stopped making it, yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of like win-win.
Yeah.
They're like, well, why not?
Yeah. I did a bit of digging, and with CF Moto being bought out by KTM, they have this factory in China, and there is a specific line for making KTMs. So I'll try and simplify it as much as possible for you guys at home.
Because you're so stupid.
So all the bit, no, but it does because like, the amount of abuse that we got for riding the 890 on the launch. Like, oh, I can't believe you're reviewing a bike from China. It's like, I'm just trying to educate a few people here. Do you know what I mean? So it's a CF Moto in the factory, CF Moto factory, or the factory in China, and they wear. I don't know this specifically, but I did try and get out the KTM guys. They are KTM specialists, as in they're not making.
So they have orange jumpers, not blue ones.
Yes. If a brand wants to do this and the bike is as good, then I don't see the problem really.
I don't have a problem with a motorcycle being made cheaply somewhere else. That doesn't particularly bother me. But when manufacturers can't get parts because they're made on the other side of the world instead of next to their factory because they're 0.03 cents cheaper to do it there, then that does become a bit of a greed philosophy. However, that is driven by, unfortunately, us and you, because you're going to go, I don't want to pay 9 grand for a bike. I'm used to having a cheap bike. I want to pay 6.5 grand for a bike. So that's what we're up against. And I think for those of you who don't like it, which is me included, it becomes a decision for the buyer to go, do I want to give my money to that company and take it out of the Austrian GDP, whatever, quota, and give it to China, who, let's face it, I mean, they're not on their best behaviour at the moment, are they, China? So as we know, politics and motorcycles don't go together. And if you do try and blend the two or explain anything, you just get in a load of shit, which is probably why we're having this conversation right now anyway.
Yeah.
So the stock and the fragility of global productions and logistics concerns me. It's all, you could argue about this for centuries.
Yeah.
I think ultimately the decision comes down to you as a consumer. Like if there was a still traditionally well-crafted, decent British motorcycle manufacturer that made their stuff here, I would consider buying it, like Ariel or something like that. I mean, they're quite expensive, obviously, but that's because they're made here. So if you want to get your knickers in a twist and say, oh, Chinese stuff, and then you still end up going to Amazon because you want to buy a set of dishcloths for £3, then you're kind of part of the problem. So I think you can't have your cake and eat it. You got to, if you want to support your own country or European manufacturing, then you got to pay the price.
Yeah, I mean, you just look at how many people that moan about bikes being made in China go out and buy an iPhone that's made in China, and they think that they're buying an American product. Yeah,
because it says designed in California,
exactly,
which is it's such a load of gaff, isn't it?
I mean, it's exactly the same.
I'm sure a load of coil packs are made in China. I'm sure a load of all of this stuff is the wiring looms. So it's kind of, it is what it is. So
yeah, but I mean, I guess the bottom line, KTM haven't made a big deal of this. They haven't gone, oh look, we're making bikes in China now. It's only the fact that they bought CF Moto and the
Makes
public,
sense.
and the public have gone, actually, they're building bikes in China. They're, and then obviously this massive like, oh my god, bloody hell! The thing is, I just don't understand it. It's the bottom line. I don't get the hoo-ha.
Look, it's going to come down to, if you want a cheap bike, that's good, and it's just as good as apparently as the European made one that's now out of date anyway and no longer in production. Then there's a cheap solution for you.
Yeah,
simple as that. If you don't want it, buy the 890.